secrets coming out, women having great conversations, society finally looking in the mirror, and one man's epic sexual journey. That's right. Today we're talking about the second half of Bridgerton Season 3.
Woohoo! And I think we want to say that one man's epic sexual journey is Benedict. Just in case anybody was not sure who. Welcome to the Rom-Com Rescue Podcast, a brand new podcast where we bring the love and life lessons from your favorite rom-coms. I'm Kira Sabin. I'm a healthy dating educator, a certified coach, and a positive psychology practitioner. But more importantly, I spend my days teaching the skills and mindsets of dating.
And I'm Dr. Isabelle Morley. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and an EFT certified couples therapist, and I help couples have the happiest, healthiest relationship possible. Join us weekly as we break down the best love lessons from your favorite rom-coms so we can all get into the best relationships possible, because we believe that we create our own happily ever afters.
But I guess we're starting in strong with just saying Benedict is there for his D, man, the whole entire time. If there is
Benedict.
one... Yeah, yes. I mean, that's all he did. He left family weddings, family events.
Balls. He doesn't care.
Doesn't give a shit. Does not give a shit. He is in it for the sex. So, and I like Benedict, that I just want so much more for him. But let's actually get into it. Hey, everybody. Welcome. We're back with Bridgerton 2. We're dressed up again. Not anywhere near as much and hard as I tried the first time.
It's a lot of work, it turns out, to look like Regency era royalty.
It is. It absolutely is. But we're so excited to be back with sharing part 2. We are not breaking this into episodes 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 like we did the first time. We're just going to be talking it through, and maybe we'll see making it 1 or 2 episodes. But we'll figure it out. I'm not too worried about it. Let's just go in. First impressions. I'd love to ask you, we've watched it. We watched it, by the way, guys. It's been out like virtually less than 24 hours. So we kicked ass, took notes as much as we could to get here and do this for you. But Isabelle, first impressions. What did you think?
Okay.
Did you love it? Did you not? What stood out to you? Was annoying? Let's go.
Let's dive in. Honestly, I'm still pretty overwhelmed by it because we've watched it so quickly.
Yes.
And so much happened with every character, with every relationship, with all these side stories. My mind is still trying to catch up with all that unfolded. Overall, though, I really liked it. I liked seeing smart, emotionally connected conversations. I liked seeing people grapple with difficult situations. My biggest negative is that, and I don't understand why, and this I'm actually really upset about, which I haven't told you yet, we don't see Lord Debling in this half at all.
I was going to make that my worst love lesson for you. There's no more Lord Debling. He was in like 1, maybe 2 episodes, and now
he's gone. But this is what happens to the perfectly wonderful suitors. They just disappear the second they're over. Where'd he go?
Which I actually would have loved to see Edwina maybe get together with the prince from the first. I would love them to bring some people back. And because they've brought in these really great suitors, why can't they be for other people too? I don't know. But yeah I knew by the time that we were through that I was through the 6th episode, I was like, oh, I don't think we're going to see Lord Debling again. And I bet that's going to be a conversation on the podcast tomorrow.
You're like, good Lord, I'm going to have to talk about this.
No, listen, I liked Lord Debling. I have no issue with Lord Debling. But I will say, if I can jump in, it felt very congested and fast-paced compared to the other seasons. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel when it came to Kate and Anthony,
or Daphne and Simon,
there was so much focus on those relationships. And I did not feel that way about Colin. I feel like we barely saw Colin. Mm-hmm. They just looked across the room at each other like all the time. Yeah. And there wasn't that much of a love story. And honestly, I'm a little there for the sex, but not that much there for the sex. But I wanted more sex.
I know. Well, and
we had one sex scene. Like
one
what?
sex scene. And it wasn't their best from the show. And that's just not a good location. You can't really do what you need to do in that very specific satay setting. But yeah, they really lost the thread, and they were really the focus at the beginning in a beautiful way. And then it just became all about Lady Whistledown and society at large, and not as much about the couple, which was disappointing.
We literally had, I should have counted it before we came on, but like 6 other storylines, right? So we have got Francesca and Lord Kilmartin. Then we have Violet and Lady Danbury's brother, Lord Anderson, I think is his name. But then we also are watching the story of the Mondriches, which we never really hear that much more about.
They dropped.
Exactly. Then we have
the Featheringtons and their financial woes.
And their financial woes and the sisters. And just, I felt like all the attention was everywhere, but on the 2 people I wanted to be. So when it opened, that first episode, Colin just, the first thing I wrote down is, Colin came in strong for me. He stepped up. I have realized this. I am in this. I want my family to know. I want to move this forward. I'm so excited. And to me, Penelope just stood there going,
she was shocked or something. Yes.
She was literally shell shocked. And I want to point this up right away because I think it's a point that we might talk about on both of these episodes, which is there is a very big difference between a crush and a relationship. And Penelope has had a crush on Colin for now years. And then
decades,
when he finally says, I'm here, I'm ready for it, she has no idea what to do with that actual love, that actual affection, things actually happening. She is, like you said, shell shocked. She is just, wait, what's happening? Wait, huh? And she can't take it in because
she can't enjoy it.
She can't enjoy it because really her, if we want to call it love, but was very one-sided, right? Colin was a little bit on a pedestal. He was her traveling friend and crush and who she would write witty letters to because I'm sure that's a way that she loves to communicate because she feels really confident in it, right? Not maybe as good in real life, but I think that actually would be one of my best love lessons because I think that's true. I think that sometimes we have a crush on somebody and then sometimes they realize or have a crush on us back and we don't know how to turn it into a relationship because one of them is adoration and that's not love.
Yeah.
Coming in strong, coming in hot, everybody.
People, a
but
fantasy.
That's true.
And it's been one-sided for years and years. And I think that there's also the risk of, oh, this is it now, like a little bit of a letdown when you've built it up for that long in your mind. And this one was an actual letdown because it came with an immediate disconnection between the two of them, right? Like it was this like super emotional neurochemical high only to just be totally dropped when he finds out who she has been pretending to be or has been.
Didn't drop. In modern times for a second there, I was like, well, there's no way this wedding's still going on. And then this wedding is still going on. He's like, I took advantage of you. I'm still good at right. So I'm going to still marry you. Shonda, please hear this because clearly this podcast is a direct line to Shonda. But I need some more happy times. I just do. This just was not as fun for me because I was just stressed out about the whole Lady Whistledown thing for the whole entire time instead of just Colin and Penelope getting to know each other as more than friends. To me, that would have been just as good, if not a better story here. Watching them go through you're not quite the person I thought you were for her and him figuring out how to show up and be a part of her world, which he's only been a friend. That alone would have been a great story, a lot we could have talked about. And we didn't get to see that because it was all about Lady Whistledown.
And everyone else involved in it. It just brought in her family, his family.
Everybody.
I could have seen 4 episodes of just what you described, plus him realizing she's Lady Whistledown and them figuring out what to do together, how to make sense of that, how to reconnect after that betrayal. But because everybody else is also a part of this and Eloise is involved, it just felt, this isn't about you two at all. And I was stressed too. Seeing her not tell him the secret drove me up a wall, and I understood her reasons for it, but it was like, you know this is happening. Eloise has told you it's happening. So how about you step up and tell the man the truth? And to have it come out another way, not from her, was just like, oh, I can't with this.
You know what? I've just thought about something that I've not thought through at all, by the way. I try to think things through before I say them on here. But I really feel like Penelope, as one of my favorite expressions on this podcast, was fucking around and finding out. She did not think about the long-term consequences of this. I don't think that when she started Lady Whistledown, she ever thought about, what if I do end up wanting to get married? How is that going to affect my husband or his family or my family? I don't think that she had really thought this through. And they did a good job, because I had a very hard time trying to decide what I wanted for her. Because at first, Colin was there. He was showing up. He was trying to love her. She's so distracted because she's got the secret, and Eloise is saying she's going to tell the secret. Then we got Cressida coming in and all that bullshit, which I know one of us is a much bigger Cressida fan than the other. But the other thing that I will say about this is that all of that distraction made her really emotionally unavailable. That made me very excited to see, because Colin was sitting there trying to love her for a whole episode before he found out. He's trying to connect. He's trying to get to know her as his fiance. He is trying to do all of these things, and she is so distracted by the whole Lady Whistledown thing and the secret she's keeping and everything else. I'm like, honey, this is what you wanted your whole entire life. You are being offered it, and you cannot accept it because of the drama, or because of some level. I think if we asked her when she started Lady Whistledown, boy, am I making up shit right now, I would think that it would be about finding a little bit of her voice, maybe somewhere about getting some attention somewhere along the way. I think she probably
Revenge.
started this because she didn't get attention, or was being seen in a way that felt good to her, which I fully understand.
I took issue, and it's hard for me to even remember all the back and forth of this is who I am. I won't stop. I will stop. They found out. They're going to expose me. No, they won't. Yes, this person now will. There's so much of that. I took issue with Penelope being I don't know what I'm going to do. I might keep writing as her, and not really considering what Colin was requesting / demanding, which I didn't love. But like you said, she did not think this through. If you're going to be Lady Whistledown, you're going to have to anticipate what that means for your future marriage if you have one, or you choose to not have a marriage because you don't want to give up your writing, and you don't want to risk the reputation of your husband, or whatever it might have been, right? But just a little too selfish for my liking, to be honest.
This is a worse love lesson because they clearly wrote it like this. But I did see Colin multiple times, really. I don't even think I wrote it down in our notes, but one of the things that I really noticed was there were times where I'm like, this is your now husband or your fiance. Why don't you guys have these conversations together? Why is there no input from each other? She's like, this is a decision I have to make. Well, not really, because you've now just married somebody. And I don't know if marriage felt so big / so little back then that, because she was, you can annul this if you want to. And I was like, one of the things I did say is, Penelope, I don't think that romance is the only end all be all, although this is a rom-com podcast. And I'm certainly a feminist enough that I want to see women, even women in the 1800s, have some of their own lives and their power. But she could not get out of her own way for this. She could not
really
get out of
couldn't.
her own way. Her whole entire life, all she wants is Colin. Now Colin is there, and then she's like, well,
But I kind of want this thing too, even if it ruins your
Right.
family and your reputation. For
and my
$20,000.
family and my sisters, and this could, it was just, there is a point where we have to decide, do I want a relationship, or do I want this thing? And why does this thing mean so much to me? Because I understood where she was like, this is my voice. I didn't feel like I had a voice, and this was a way I could have a voice. I get that. I see that. I hear that. I feel that. However, you have now just entered into a relationship. There needs to be conversation. Colin was really offering, how can I help you decide this? Or how can we figure this out together? And she's, I don't know. No, I don't know. But the thing I couldn't get past is this is gossip. She is not
I know.
writing
I
for the UN about peace here. She is not
know.
writing beautiful novels like Jane Austen. She is a gossip rag that's making people feel like shit. So,
Yeah.
Penelope, what are you holding on to so hard?
And that's the thing. And you're right. Finding a voice, having power, making money, right? Being independent in any way. So get that. Amazing, important. But you're right. She's not writing about solving society's problems, especially at first. She's exposing people's worst moments and vulnerabilities and shaming people publicly.
And fucking with the Queen, which, let's be honest, not bad idea.
Bad
There's nothing
idea.
about Queen Charlotte that what we've seen from all of her stories that I would want to fuck with her in any way. She has all the power, all of the
Yeah.
power.
And why taunt her even in Queen Charlotte, seeing the way she mocks her and just all of it. I have no sympathy for that part of it. But I just kept thinking, if my husband was like, your blog is really a problem, like people are talking about it, like I'm going to be affected by it, like your family might have reputational damage from it, I'd be like, okay, blog's done. That's fine. And
Listen.
and it's a different situation, right?
But it's not. And, and I understand back then, but if there was something that was in my business harming my relationship, it wouldn't be part of my business anymore.
Or you'd pick your business first and you wouldn't have entered a relationship that could risk it, or you would choose to leave that relationship
That's right.
for your business, right? Just have your cake, eat it too. You don't really get to do both things. And I think there's a lot of messaging, a lot of subtle messaging of you shouldn't have to give up something that is important to you, making you money, your career. As a woman, I agree with that in a general sense. Don't give
Absolutely.
everything up for a relationship. But it's okay to make choices and to let things go for your relationship if it's the right choice for the both of you and for if that's what's important to you. Then it is okay to do that. So that whole thing sat wrong with me.
It did me too, because once again, she's not saving the world. She's not making change for good. He's not asking her to give up her time in the war or things like that. She is writing mean shit about other people under a nom de plume. I really just wanted to say nom de plume. And it's not kind. So is this what you're fighting so hard for? Sometimes we have to look at what are we fighting so hard for? And is
Why?
it worth it? And why?
Mm-hmm. Is it on
What else?
principle?
Yeah. What else are some of your first impressions?
This is a random one. I just lost interest in Colin. Like I had just recently told you, he was fine and there, and he had moments that I didn't like, moments that I liked, but he was such a minor part of this second half. I was just like, oh, you seem to be like an important person in the beginning of this, and now you're here, and that's about all I can say about you. A thought that I really can't get out of my head this whole time is, we think no one is approaching Eloise. She's from the Bridgerton family that everyone's obsessed with. She's beautiful. She's smart. She's funny. No one's danced with her. No one has
Right.
shown interest and courted her. Absolutely not.
Well, you and I discussed, because we talk about shit, in between and everything else, that right now I'm having a very hard time picturing a love story for Eloise. She seems like a continuing 13-year-old and honestly acts like a continuing 13-year-old all of the time. I'm a little bit over the Bridgerton entitlement. I see Violet have it. We see Benedict can put his dick anywhere. That's an entitlement. We see Anthony with a pretty
Oh,
good
yeah.
level of
Oh, yeah.
entitlement. I think that the Bridgertons are just not aware that not everybody's living in the exact same dream la la land that they are.
And are there other first impressions you want to get to? Like Benedict?
No, I'm a little bit irritated that this is all they're giving him. He seems like an interesting character and they're giving him nothing. Like
He
he slept around
did.
the first season. At least he had some art. He slept around the second season. Did a
What
little bit more
happened to
art.
the art?
And then
Yes.
this time he's just sleeping around.
And every time I didn't realize life could be like this, that I could sleep with people from this class or this gender. I didn't realize I could pursue whatever I want. I feel so free. What do you mean? You've been free since day one. You've got no obligations, no limitations. You've been sleeping with whoever with no repercussions. How is he still astonished by the fact that he can do whatever he wants?
Well, here's something that doesn't happen in Bridgerton land. Once again, I'm just thinking about this now, is there's clearly no birth control.
Oh, clearly.
And since I did a little bit when we did Queen Charlotte recently, I go to the history, right? Because when there's actual historical characters, I'm interested in the history. Like, how are the Bridgerton men having sex with everybody under the sun and these
Never
women aren't
getting
getting
them.
pregnant? I understand that there are certainly different ways. There is the whole
Pulling
tracking
out.
to know and things like that. But are you telling me that none of these Bridgerton men who we see sleeping in brothels and all the other places, none of these women are getting pregnant? Madame Della, like all of these different people who
Tilly.
are clearly, she looks like she's 37. So I don't know how old we're supposed to think that she is. But yeah, there just doesn't seem to be a ton of consequences to Bridgertons.
There is a
Ever.
bunch of illegitimate Bridgerton children, though. Yeah, we haven't heard about. There's no way.
I think that there are. I think that between Benedict or
Anthony.
Antony,
Colin in Europe. Who knows what kind of European babies he
yeah,
has.
the women from Paris, like I bet there are Bridgerton babies around. So
There
let's
are.
move on to best love lessons. Does that feel good?
Do it.
Let's do it.
I think we have some conversations to be had based on our responses to each other on certain love lessons. So I'm excited.
Oh.
Oh, so the first one is with Colin and Penelope. I like the lesson of a relationship isn't just about security, but it's also to be loved and cared for and to love and care for that person. And that can look in many different ways. But when Penn says, I can take care of myself, which is like a common theme for her in this last half, and Colin says, what good am I to you? And I think there's a way that could be interpreted as he just wants to like be the man and take care of everything, right? And be needed, and how negatively that can be seen. But really when I see that, I see this as, but if you're just going to do everything by yourself and not come to me for help or emotional support or conversation, then what's the point of being together? Because that's the point, is like to build a life and share in these things together. And I liked that message, which they both needed to hear from each other at different points during these episodes.
I'll say this many times. I think out of the two people in this, I think Colin really showed up and Penn was the one who was flailing and flaking and trying to figure out what to do and dragging everybody else in her life through this. And it could have ended so easily, so many times. She could have just stopped writing. She could have let Cressida really take credit. She could have done so many things at any time that would have made the situation temporarily dramatic and then gone. And she didn't. And maybe that's part of the storyline. But I do see that this is a conversation. And I think that they did a pretty good job because you and I saw through it, which is, you're absolutely right, that for so long we have told men that their job is to be the breadwinner, the strong rescuer. And when they don't know what to do or are not the main breadwinner or are not able to rescue the woman because she doesn't need rescuing, we are seeing right now our gender roles, we really don't have a lot of footing. They're changing, they're expanding. I think it's beautiful, but we're definitely seeing in society, not on Bridgerton, a lot of struggle because of it, because men don't know who to be anymore. And women aren't sure what they want men to be or what they want anymore. There's a lot of just miscommunication, but you're absolutely right. This wasn't about him wanting to be the breadwinner. This is about, when are you going to let me in enough to actually be a partner? When are you going to let me either see you or help you or support you or stand by you? I actually thought that he really stood by her side through all of this.
Yes, even when she's saying, but I'm still going to write maybe. She made it hard on him
Hard.
to stand by her. Yeah, she went
Hard.
too independent. And it's because she had to, because nobody was helping her, taking care of her. But as it's like, people have a lot more empathy for Penelope doing this than Cressida. But similar situation.
Oh, wait, Cressida's coming up? That's shocking. Listen, and you're absolutely right. And I actually wrote, one of the things I wrote in the first impressions, I wrote, this whole series, this Bridgerton season 3, is a lot about loneliness. It's a lot about people being lonely and how they act or react when they're lonely. We see Colin acknowledge, I'm lonely. I don't think I want this life anymore. And in that, he realizes his feelings for Penn and decides to go after her. We see that Penn is lonely. And what happens then is she becomes Lady Whistledown. She finds a voice a different way. We are seeing people really just trying to survive, and some of them not doing it that well. Because the unfortunate part is, I see Cressida and I'm like, I wanted her to take that $5,000 and run. I wish
Me
she wouldn't have
too.
been so shitty and greedy about it. I wanted to see her because I don't want her having to marry some 70-year-old. I don't want that for any of these women or men for that matter. I don't want this for anybody now. But I do think that there's so many people who are hurting, but that doesn't mean that we can poop all over each other. And Cressida poops all over a lot.
She does, but she is desperate and she is totally alone. And it's what she did that
You don't
much
think
worse.
her mom's there? You don't think Lady Cowper is there for her?
Well, she's a great support and a great mom, so I take that back. She's not alone,
Wow.
but is what she was doing worse than what Lady Featherington was doing? Penn was exploiting everyone's gossip and secrets and making a ton of money off of it. Cressida is going to exploit one secret from one person to make a ton of money.
I just can't believe that
it's a
we're sitting here
parallel.
talking and you're
Cressida.
defending Cressida.
I know.
But here's the deal, though.
Cressida's the new cow.
You know what? The thing is that you're absolutely right. Because we get to actually see enough of Cressida's story, her parents, her dad in particular. Like, she's now in the 3rd season of Marriage Mart. So we see that. But man, I would have rather seen some self-reflection rather than what she did, right? There was no because Cressida's a beautiful woman. Let's not be ridiculous here. There's reasons why Cressida doesn't have a match. And I don't think it's because of anything to do with her status or her looks. I think it's her stinky personality.
Except she almost had Prince Friedrich. He was like in the bag until Daphne was like, forget Simon, I'm going to lock this up. She steals Prince Friedrich away, then dumps him for Simon. Okay? She almost had Lord Debling. That was looking very good for her. And then Penelope swoops in, takes him, and then once again, this has happened a few times to her. She finally makes an authentic friend in Eloise. And when she is really in a crisis because she's about to be married to this old, awful guy and she's trying to talk to Eloise about it, Eloise couldn't care less. Isn't listening, doesn't help, doesn't really care. She has just been dealt the worst hand. I don't begrudge her this blackmailing at all, I gotta say. And she still ends up in the worst case scenario for her. Can't Cressida get a break?
I'm going to challenge you and say, can't Cressida make her own break a little bit easier here?
She could.
Cressida is not making this easy on herself. Cressida is not making these matches, and in no way is she learning from what's going on. She is just doubling down on her crappiness and her stinkiness and her weird friendship with Eloise. And let's just get into how Eloise used to be my favorite character, and it was hard for me this season because of the realization of these Bridgertons just walking through life without realizing that other people do not have the same things that they have, whether that be money, whether that be title, whether that be whatever. And we are supposed to like them so much because they're adorable, and Violet is an amazing and adorable mom, and just they seem loving and fun, and everybody's jostling around with each other. But at the end of the day, every fucking single Bridgerton that we have seen is entitled, is a little shitty, and Eloise pushing Penn, Eloise with Cressida, and just really, honestly, Eloise was not a good friend to Cressida. Multiple times Cressida tried to, I'm feeling like this, and then Eloise is hijacking the conversation back to herself, or back to Penelope, or back to how she needs to protect Colin. Because I texted you yesterday, is Eloise a narcissist? I was just joking, though. But she is really caught up in her own shit. She is really caught up in her own shit. And I think that Cressida and Eloise probably did make good friends because neither of them are self-reflective. They're not really helping each other be self-reflective.
No, Eloise is a much better friend to Penelope. Not in this season, we see their rupture, obviously, but previously, she seems to actually have a back and forth with Penelope, and she shows interest in what Penelope is reading or thinking, right? But with Cressida, it was, and this was a new surface friendship that was complicated for other reasons. Yeah, Eloise, I usually really like her too. She's just funny. She's quick. She's snarky. I like her and Benedict's dynamic. But her role in this, again, was just meh. She should have been a bigger part of the whole Lady Whistledown coming to light. This has been basically her thing, is being obsessed with Lady Whistledown, wanting to expose her. And when it finally happens, it's Cressida doing it. And Eloise is not a part of it at all. What happened?
I just want more for Eloise than this. It's okay if she doesn't want a grand love story. That's cool. But she says how empowered she wants to be and how women empowered she wants to be and how she loved Lady Whistledown in the beginning because she was speaking her mind or whatever. But when push comes to shove, Eloise is just a little bit of an entitled baby. When her and Penelope had a falling out, she didn't work on becoming a better person. She basically just found somebody that she knew that Penelope didn't like and then just talked her ear off for months.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Ruminated about this issue with Penelope without actually saying anything, but so obsessed with it. And honestly, if she was that upset, and especially with a continued friendship between Colin and Penelope, then say something. Don't just stew in it and punish everyone around you, make them hear about how you're in a friend fight. If you're that upset about it, tell Colin. This is why we're fighting. This is why it's hard for me to see you two being friends because there's a huge lie and I'm not happy about it. That's what you do.
I don't think that Eloise did herself any favors. I don't think that Cressida did herself any favors. I look forward to self-reflection for both of them, right? I look forward to Eloise. Like I said, I don't give a shit if Eloise has her own love story. Her own love story can be about herself and finding out what she loves and to travel the world or whatever it is. But she's not getting there like this because there is zero reflection about herself. And let me just tell you this, her and Penn, as well as Colin and Penn, there was a lot of punishment rather than questions. There's a point of where Eloise and Penelope were supposed to believe that they've been friends for maybe, 10 plus years?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Eloise doesn't say, how did this happen? Like,
I want to understand. Do you feel badly?
Do you feel bad? Should you continue? Or like, where was the friendship there? And then the same with Colin, like shit came up, not good shit. Lady Whistledown, that's a big ass deal. That's fine. But just the same, instantly we see accusations. How dare you? How could you? Help me understand.
I'm really upset for this reason. I feel stupid. I feel embarrassed that you've kept this secret. I feel like hurt that you said those things about me and I didn't know. And now we're married and you knew they weren't before they were married, right? And we are engaged and you didn't tell me this huge thing about you. I feel like an idiot. Vulnerability, people.
And I don't like where we're supposed to believe that there are years and years of friendship and all of a sudden you just boom, turn. Never questions or you've really hurt my feelings and I have to think about if I want to move forward with this friendship. But just instead cut people off. That's a lack of boundaries. It's just walls and it's unhelpful. And as much as we see Penelope at her best and her worst in this season, because I think that we do, I feel like those friendships deserved at least conversation.
Well, like we see between Lady Danbury and Violet.
Right.
Like we see them go through moments of possible dramatic discord. But
one of them sleeps with the other one's father. Now Violet's kind of get together with her brother. Everybody's keeping it in the families there.
But that was one of my... Got to keep those bloodlines pure. You know what I'm saying?
For better, for worse.
I think we've gone off into our worst love lessons now. Should we bring it back to our happy love lessons?
I guess so. Yes. I just think that there's just a lot to talk about here. They filled a lot in 4 episodes. I even feel like there were so many things that were not tied up and that we're not supposed to sure what to do with. And
okay, can we just
say that
part
part just drives me a little nuts.
The Mondrich storyline, too much of a focus in the first half, dropped in the second half, could have done without it. Featherington's about to lose their money again. Done with this. It's happened every time. I'm done. I'm over it. Let's move on from that storyline as well. Violet forcing her children into the marriage that she wants for them to have. Over it. Let's move on.
Agreed. Now, I think that's probably pretty standard through the books, right? Because books do things differently than 8 episode sagas, which is what these virtually are. But yeah, I really need them to do more with some of these characters. Benedict's the exact same person as he was season 1, 24 episodes later. Violet's virtually the exact same person that she was, and she now has been in 4 seasons because she was also part of Queen Charlotte.
Eloise too.
Eloise too.
Changed. Yeah.
I will say that I'm happy to see by the end Penelope there's growth. There's growth for Colin. There's growth between the two of them. But I really need them to step up these storylines because they're leaning so hard into characteristics that it's not interesting on some level anymore,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't need to hear Violet talk to her kids about another love match, right? I don't
No.
need to see Benedict stick it in another woman.
Yes,
or
you
man.
do. Yes, you do. Don't deprive the people of that, Kira. Okay?
It's just not interesting, though.
I know, because we're not
it's just
attached to
not
those people. I'm not
interesting.
attached to Tilly. I'm not attached to Paul. It's like watching Calling with the Sex Workers. We don't know them. We don't care about what's happening there.
I'd like to talk about what I think is a great love lesson, which is the real, very honesty, whether we like it or not as a society, but Lady Tilly expressing her feelings for Benedict. And just, I want to say that people do change their minds. Sometimes people say, this is all I want. And then as they spend time together, they want more. That's very real. And we don't like that as a society. We like that what you come in is how you leave, right?
Don't catch feelings.
Don't catch
change
feelings.
what you want.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's real and true. And not just for women. It's also for men or for anybody, that when we are particularly physically intimate with somebody, you and I understand the chemical cocktails enough that go off in our brain. It's virtually impossible to not start creating some connection with them and attaching with them. That's exactly it. But I did like that. And I thought it was a great love lesson because that's true. That's real. That sometimes two people get together with an agreement and one person starts to feel more. But I like that she told him. I didn't like that she just sat there and resented him wanting to make out with Paul. I like that she was like, this has changed for me. And they had an adult ass conversation about it because
yes, it was such a good conversation. It's exactly it. She shared how she felt. He was honest in return, right? He didn't conceal things for her feelings. He didn't shame her for changing how she felt. He just responded with what he was looking for. And she understood. And she was like, yeah, I get it. You might get lonely doing this, but I understand that. It was so mature. And it does make us think that, like, Benedict is meant for more. He's capable of mature conversations and connection. We don't see a lot of it because he's just screwing the ton. But
not that I think Lady Tilly is his love match. However, I like that at least there was some realness and adult conversations there. Because once again, he is just.
But this is what they do,
poking
and this
his way around.
Poking his way around. Was he a mole?
This conversation
Don't
is
take this out.
Ridiculous.
Wait. I am sick of. I can't get poking around out of my mind. I'm sick of the Bridgerton men, the men of Bridgerton world, all being rakes, sleeping around, needing no one, until they meet the right person who changes their mind about commitment and challenges them and makes them realize they want marriage and children and everything. And it's not Lady Tilly. She's not the magical one to turn Benedict, but somebody's
she's too old, let's be honest.
She's too old.
She's too old.
But next season, I bet there's going to be somebody's going to swoop in and he's going to be like, oh, now I get it. Now I want commitment. And I dislike this for all the messages that it sends, right? It'll just be that magical person and you'll get the guy that you want. But also because there's been a lot of, and I'm not going to reference Lord Debling, but a lot of wonderful suitors who have come in saying, I'm ready for marriage. I'm ready for commitment. I'm ready for this type of relationship with these expectations and this type of attachment. And those men are getting thrown to the wayside. I'm not over it. I'll never be over it.
I can see that, and I'm okay with it. I like Lord Debling. I really do.
Poor Kira is like, it's okay.
It's okay.
I like him.
I'm okay with it. No, but I actually, you're bringing up something that's been a real thing for me because for us to do this, I watched all of Bridgerton 1, Bridgerton 2, Queen Charlotte, and then Bridgerton 3. So I feel really feeling pretty Bridgertoned that one of the things that Violet says, I want to say season 1 to Daphne, I don't know if this is correct, but it'll be close enough people get it, is that she said, I think that former rakes make the best husband.
Get out of town.
And I'm like, Violet, that's bullshit. You're basically
they make the best one-night stand because they know what they're doing, but
so a rake, in case some people don't know, it's an English expression for kind of a bad boy, right?
Somebody boy, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, I think that, former rakes make the I'm like, no, they fucking don't. I also don't believe that just because Anthony and Kate are now married, that he is now going to be this super wonderful husband and father.
Don't get me started on this, because I
Like,
loved him this
that doesn't-
season, but that's because it wasn't Anthony. This was a whole new person.
Absolutely. And I dislike immensely that we're just saying that if there's love, that person's going to instantly completely change and become who you want them to be. That is bullshit. That is worst messaging to me, because Anthony is still going to be Anthony. Now, he can now be in a better relationship with Kate. Kate can help. Kate can support. There might be change over time. But Anthony is not going to now wake up being a great, committed, wonderful husband.
This 180.
Because
he met Kate.
That's not the way that humans work.
No.
And I think that's what I also just dislike about rom-com sometimes, and in general, is that this idea that if we love a bad boy enough, they'll change for us. And that's just not true.
It's not. It's so appealing because it makes us feel worthwhile and valuable. It makes us feel special that we're the ones who could bring that goodness to the bad boy's life. Yeah. Like we're enough. We're so enough that we can be enough to make another person better and healthy and whole.
And how fucked up is it that we think that? How fucked up is it that we think that one person's love and attention is going to change somebody completely? That is their own self-work. And by the way, if they're acting a certain way, which is disconnected, avoidant, emotionally unavailable, all of those things, that's not going to change just because you're now in their life. That's not going to change. This is how they respond to the world. That's how they're going to...
They can work on that.
Exactly. But that change is going to be on their own, maybe with your love and support, but it's not going to be because of just your love and support. Is that, do you feel it's a fair statement? Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it takes being in a relationship and having somebody reflect back. You do this. This is how you act in the situation. This is how it makes me feel. This is a thing that keeps happening, for you to actually have full awareness of it and then to do the work of it. And like we talk about a lot in couples therapy, the feelings might not change. The feeling of being insecure or anxious or whatever it might be, that feeling might be with you forever. How you deal with it changes. That's a choice. Your behavioral response is your choice. And it's hard to believe that Anthony, who has been traumatized his whole life, who has felt this like overbearing burden of being the man of the house, hates Kate, loves Kate, marries Kate, and now is, I don't even want to be in charge of the Bridgerton house. Let's move to India. Whatever you want, babe. No. Trauma takes a lot longer to work through. As great as Kate is, not happening. Okay, good love lessons. We still have
good
some.
Love lessons. I do. And I'll tell you, the ultimate romantic to me is when Colin stuck up to Lady Featherington for Penelope. Do I think that's super healthy? I don't know. She should have done it herself, whatever. But I will say that was a swoon moment for me, that he went in there and is, you're not seeing how incredible this woman is and that I love her and she's not entrapped me and everything else. And though I wish Lady Featherington would have seen Penelope for herself, I do have to say I thought it was super romantic for him to go in, because Lady Featherington, I didn't believe it, but she self-reflects.
She grew up. She did some work and I liked her.
And Barney were...
I know.
I was like, what is happening here? And by the end, I was just like, look at Lady Featherington go. I was really happy and proud of her to be able to let down her own shit and her own walls enough to see that there's a different way. And I thought it was very interesting because Violet sees love and relationships as this beautiful, romantic, swept up, passionate story. But somebody like Lady Featherington or Lady Cowper, for that matter, that's not the stories they had, right? And both of them, good or bad, are projecting that shit onto their kids. Lady Featherington basically was just like, we need to get you ladies into some kind of relationships so that you're just
pregnant.
Get you pregnant so you're guaranteed a future. And that's her survivor, right? Now, actually seeing her now, I would love to see a prequel because that's one of the
I love
things
that idea.
right? There's
Yes.
two that they throw out there, Lady Featherington and then a Brimsley. I'd like to see both of them. But now seeing kind of the growth of her this season, I'm like, I'm into it. I want to see what happened. I want
And,
to see how she ended up with Lord Featherington. She said, it was not a love match.
There was some internal inconsistency there because in another season they reference how they were the love match of the season and then how it all fell
What?
apart. Yes.
I don't
So
remember that. Shonda, bring it. We want to know. We want to know. Who
Speaking
really
of,
loves me.
moms grew during this. We see Lady Featherington. I thought she did a great job growing and sharing and being vulnerable and self-reflecting. Violet finally listens to one of her children when her hand is forced and she has no choice but to see a child say,
When somebody directly says, what
I don't
you
want
want
what
for
you
me.
want.
Exactly.
consider what I am saying to you. This is my choice. I am making it freely of my own free will.
Talking about not comprehending or taking in information. I laugh that you and I have been talking about this, but now I see it everywhere. And particularly this season, her kids being like, well, mom wants a love match. Like, mom wants it this way, or mother wants it this way, and hers is the only way. But until Francesca was like, I don't want what you want.
Saying. And then she
was like, oh.
And then she even gives her like a compliment of, you've shown me another way of loving. I thought that it had to be immediate and passionate and whatever, but like you're showing me a different way of making a relationship, which was like, yes, it's a little too late for all the other kids you've forced into relationships, but that's great that you finally got there. It got a little bit ruined by the end when Francesca is obviously not into the kiss at her wedding and then is obviously attracted to her husband's cousin.
What did you think about that?
Okay, I was confused at first. I was like, did I miss
had
something?
to go back and watch it actually because, well, no, just because I was like, what are they telling us here? Are they telling me what I think that they're telling us? Because it was almost a blip, right? It was almost a blip because I'm also taking notes when I watch these and stuff like that. So it was almost a blip and I was like, wait, are we supposed to, wait, what?
I thought maybe she knew her from before. I was like, did I miss a part of this season where they had an exchange and they knew each other or something? But then I think it's just that she's finally found her love match, Kira. Violet's going to be so happy. But see, I don't like that. I wanted her to go off to Scotland with a lovely, quiet relationship that would grow over time. And
not because we're not supportive of
a love match
of her being
to women or whatever.
A lesbian.
Who cares?
Like, I have no issue with that, but I do have issue with us learning this beautiful lesson and Violet learning this beautiful lesson and her speaking up for herself. And I'm like, okay, I'm here for all of this. And at the end, we're like, oh, is she just like that because she likes women?
She likes women.
Wah, wah, wah. That just took away my whole excitement about this whole entire relationship.
Oh, it's going to reinforce all of Violet's shit once she finds out. She's going to be like, I knew it.
I know. I was like, no. I did. I was like, oh my gosh, there's growth. Oh, wait.
Wait, I'll say a nice thing about Violet, though. This is maybe my favorite part of these episodes. I love how she handled the Lord Anderson flirtation when she realizes there's a rift between him and his sister, Lady Danbury. She's not overly dramatic. I'll never talk to you again. Or she's not sleeping with him and hiding it from Lady Danbury and being deceptive. She was really measured and thoughtful about it. I would be interested. We have affairs to take care of before I would want to pursue that. So let's take care of our things and come back. That was like, this
let's
is
get
so mature.
Our affairs in order, I believe, were kind of like the thing. And I agree that she was like, I'm not going to step out of a long-term friendship for this. We're not moving on to worst love lessons yet because we still have more. But the biggest worst love lesson, of course, was that there was not enough Lady Danbury.
I was wondering when you were going to bring that up. It's been almost an hour of recording. I'm actually shocked that you waited this long.
I'm a little shocked
to say
too,
it.
actually. I'm actually a little shocked too.
Now I'm worried about you.
Actually, she did end up showing up a little bit more. Like that first, I think, episode back in, I was like, where the fuck is Lady Danbury?
But there wasn't a lot. It's a chess scene.
There wasn't. And I thought the interesting conversation between her kind of acknowledging what happened between her and Violet's father. Friendship moment. And I actually really like their friendship. I like the friendship with all three. In fact, I like Lady Danbury with the Queen. I like Lady Danbury with Violet. I know the Queen and Violet are not as close, but it is interesting after watching Queen Charlotte again recently and then seeing the Queen in modern time of Bridgerton, right? And how sometimes I want to now be like, you know better. You went through
nicer.
your own shit enough that you know better than to be like this. She has such all-controlling power, especially since the king is mad or whatever we want to say.
Yeah.
And please listen to our Queen Charlotte episode to hear our thoughts on that. But I wish that they brought a little bit more humanity and kindness, Queen, that I feel like they did a great job showing in Queen Charlotte. Like how she's become who she is. But sometimes until kind of Lady Danbury was like, but do you really want to destroy? Like, I actually thought that there was a point where before Cressida broke it all open, I actually thought to myself that there might be a moment where the Queen just says, I don't want to know. I actually take it back. Forget it. I don't want to know. I want Lady Whistledown to keep writing because women to women, go for it. And there's a part of me that really wanted to see that.
Yeah.
But
I know, which I guess we see at the end where she like gives her the stage to say her piece and then doesn't prosecute her or whatever she could have done.
Which doesn't feel real, unfortunately, with the way that we brought up Queen Charlotte, right? It doesn't feel real that she would be like, I've decided to let her speak. I just don't even know if women got to speak to a crowd like that back then. That if they weren't the queen, right? Would they be able to acknowledge and speak to men in a room? I don't even know, because that's how fucked up it was back then. I feel like these episodes were about mothers, Violet and Lady Featherton, learning their version of love story wasn't the only version of love story, which is a great lesson because everybody's love story looks different. Everybody wants and needs different things on some level. And I wish we had more conversations about that.
Oh, I just love that love lesson because you're right. And it makes us so judgmental of other people's love stories, of how they meet, of how they stay together, when they stay together, right? People who stay together after infidelity, people who meet in a way that we don't think is a good enough meet cute. People are really critical of the people's relationships. And they're never enough reminding us it's not our relationship. We are not seeing all of it. We are on the outside. We see a piece of it. Let people have whatever relationship they want to have. There's many ways to have a good relationship.
As long as it's healthy, that's all I care about, which is meaning both people are feeling seen, heard, and loved, right? And safe, exactly. But I do that this is a conversation because it isn't one we actually have enough. And in fact, one of my biggest issues with technology and social media is how many people become unhappy in their relationship because they think that their relationship is not as good as others that they see when it's all highlight reel, whatever. But I'm just, everybody's fighting. Right? You get to decide what your relationship looks like. It was a big moment for me somewhere in my 30s when I realized that one of my friends, I didn't like her husband. I was just like, this is it. This is who we're choosing, really? It was one of my closest friends. And then I realized, wait, I was judging him for what I want, not what she wants, not what she needs. Their relationship was wonderful for her. But at that point, I couldn't get out of my own head enough to think that what I want is not what she wants.
And then people fall into this sort of self-righteous state of thinking they're doing people a service by being very vocal about, like Violet does. This is what you should want, though. Consider this. This is why they aren't a good match. Maybe you should leave. Maybe this isn't good for you. That's not necessarily a service to people. That's just being judgmental. If you're worried about someone's safety, if a relationship is damaging their mental health, right? Or like having a negative impact in a way that's making you concerned, that's a whole different situation. But I see a lot of friends saying terrible things about people.
Concerned citizens.
That's right. Yeah. You don't need to do that.
I'm really over all of the concerned netizens or citizens feeling the need to comment on every person's body or relationship or choices in general. I just think, as kindly as I can say this, shut the fuck up, everybody. Stay in your own lane. Work on your own shit. If you want to change the world, start with yourself. That's just the truth. But people coming on and all the conversation around poor Nicola Coughlan's body. And she had the perfect answer to that, by the
God.
way.
Loved
She is my hero. I actually have it right here. I found the actual video, and I think, did you see I put it
I
up this
saw.
morning?
I love it.
One of the things that Nicola Coughlan said is that a female journalist, actually, I'd like to point out, said to her, there's been a lot of conversation around your body type. And then Nicola Coughlan says, it is hard because I think women with my body type, women with perfect breasts, we don't get to see ourselves on screen enough. I'm very proud as a member of the perfect breast community. I hope you enjoy seeing them. This girl,
Love that.
you know
She's
what?
the
She's like,
hero we
I'm
need.
not even going to acknowledge your body shaming bullshit. I love that. She's just stopped talking about it. And she does have great breasts, by the way. They gave a full show and I was proud of her. I was like, good for you. Good
But-
for you.
And I
My
think people
breasts
are
do
trying.
not look anything like that.
I think people are trying to be supportive of this is progress, this is good, right? We need more of this, but it can come across in this way, which is like, how does it feel to have a body that no one sees on screen with all of the insinuations of what that means,
And then
right?
everybody talking about it, right?
It's the main topic. It would be great if it
Is that
wasn't
the
a topic.
conversation of Anthony and Kate? No. Is that the conversation of the Duke and Daphne? No. Like, why? I'm actually so excited. As a plus size woman, I am so excited when I see plus size people and we're not talking about them being plus size. And we're just letting them fucking lead their lives as people do all day, every day. They
They
get in
do.
relationships, they fall in love. Things happen all the time. So my favorite thing is when we don't. The last thing I want to see is one more conversation or movie or TV show or book that's talking about the fat person being fat and all the things that they have to do to get over that fat, or to like, oh, they better lose weight to finally be loved, or what. I'm so sick of that conversation. Can
Yeah.
we just live? I think it's fair to say that shaming people is not creating change, or we would all be a lot better people, wouldn't we?
Yeah. That's the thing about Bridgerton is that we don't talk about interracial couples. It's not even
Right.
a thing, right? Kate comes from India. No one's talking about that. They're talking about your wealth and your name and those things. But really, there's no talk about race, but body type is still a huge barrier to a relationship, which is, yeah, it just sucks to see.
It sucks to see, and it felt like occasionally Penelope was like a deer in headlights because she almost didn't feel like she deserved that love. Like that love that she'd wanted so long from Colin, he's now offering it, and she's like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to receive. And that happens a lot, I think, that when there's been years and years of self-loathing, when somebody is trying to give us love, it's very hard to receive it. It's very hard to take it in. It's a bit of a mind fuck, to tell you the truth. And that's what, I mean, I had to really start working with my therapist when Danny started to care for me in the way that I said that I'd always fucking wanted to be cared for.
You were like, I don't believe it. What's
Yeah.
happening here?
Because my self-worth. So if people are regularly like, how do I sabotage? I'm like, because you will truly go after what you think you deserve. And if you don't think you deserve much, that's going to really show up in who you choose as a partner. It's also going to show up in how much you ask for. If something upsets you, are you talking about it, or are you just bottling it up? Low self-worth shows up in a lot of ways. And it also can show up as in somebody trying to be there and love you and support you, and you constantly pushing that away because you don't know how to receive it. Because love is not only about giving, it's also about receiving. It has to be both.
I have my mind is in the gutter right now, and I have no choice but to share it. Speaking of giving and receiving love, Kira. Also, because I cut the tips off, I look like I'm had to go ride my motorcycle after this.
Or you're Colin in the carriage.
You're in the gutter with me. Welcome to the gutter.
This just got weird.
Here's
Oh,
a really
shit.
specific gripe I have.
I can't wait.
When they're-
I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm not. I'm actually sitting way back.
When they're having sex for the first time, and because they don't tell women anything, she's got no idea what's about to happen, right? Or like what to do or anything. And she asks tell me what to do. And he's like, I'll do everything. And she's like, no, tell me what to do. And I'm like, yes, girl. Would I be that confident? Probably not. I'd be like, oh my
I wouldn't
God,
have.
you take the lead. I'll be here.
I mean, I was virtually like, is it in there? I knew nothing.
Here's the issue. Touch me. Where? Anywhere. So she does. And she reaches down to touch his piece. He goes, not there. First of all, that's the number one place she should touch. So explain that to me.
Not there yet. I think there was a yet there.
Yeah, but so when? Because then immediately he puts it in. So when did she have a chance?
Oh, shit.
When was the right moment? And why not touch it yet? Wait, why not touch it yet? None of it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense to me.
I love
Did I miss this part of sex ed?
I don't know, but like, I love that you're like, I don't like how he keeps asking her if things are okay. I'm like, you mean consent?
Wait, I have a really specific... This is, if we're living in Bridgerton, I have...
No.
I saw that and I started laughing. Let me explain this.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Oh my God,
So-
my makeup is all like dripping up.
Yeah, well, once you said poking around, it was just a quick slide down into the gutter.
Keep bringing in the word poking, but okay, yes. I really need a Kleenex. Okay, go ahead. Oh my God.
Okay, here's my
Okay.
issue with their
Okay.
sex scene. And this is my
Here's-
issue with every Bridgerton brother sex scene. I like that he asked before he did anything, because she doesn't know what the fuck is about to happen. So she doesn't know what is about to happen, though. How could she give consent if she has no idea what sex is? She doesn't even know that they've had sex at that point, right? She could have thought the carriage
Like,
was
is that
sex.
it? Is there more?
Yeah, she has no.
Wait,
She's no
there's
clue.
more?
So, like, I like that he
Oh.
asked. Great. In this world, men ruin women's reputations by sleeping with them. She's
Yes.
the one who could have been totally fucked by getting fucked, not him. And men made these rules to keep women pure, and men are the ones who also get to break these rules,
Yep.
apparently. And so if you're a man who really loves a woman, like Colin supposedly does for Penelope, then you put that first. You protect her reputation. You're about to get married. You can't wait 2 fucking days to do this. I mean, he did the right thing by marrying her, even though he was upset with her. But, like, I hate this idea that men just are so overwhelmed with their passion that they just can't not have sex with them. Yeah, you can wait. This is your
Yeah,
rule.
you
This is
can.
your rule.
You're absolutely right, and I think that, and I'm making this up, so I may be wrong. But I think that there's also this assumption, because Penelope has been not picked for so long. She had to ask Colin for that kiss. That it's almost, well, of course she's going to do it because she's desperate. Or
She should be so
we-
grateful for
she
the
should
chance.
be great. That's what it felt like to me. And I don't actually think that Colin or even Luke Newton played it that way. But I think it was a little bit written that way, that Penelope on some level is supposed to be grateful for just anybody.
And
And thank God somebody wants to actually sleep with her or something. And there did feel like some underlying tone of that. But let's be honest, every fucking season so far, the men have taken,
yeah. Yes, they have.
what's the word I'm looking for? Privilege
Advantage.
or whatever. Yeah, taken advantage.
Virginities.
So Duke and Daphne, right? That happened.
Also, it used to be that if you stood alone with a man without a chaperone, you were ruined and had to or had to marry them. And now they're just sleeping around. Apparently,
know.
you can be in your apartment having sex.
Well, because
Remember
you know,
season 1?
former rakes make the best husbands.
That they do, Kara. Is Danny a rake? Excuse me.
Oh no, he is
former
the opposite
rake.
of a rake. He is the opposite of a rake. He is the best fucking man that ever lived. A good person. He certainly dated before me, but I think he was a good boyfriend in those relationships too.
Can I tell you something? Actually, I can't make this up.
Okay, go.
Literally right now, Lucas is raking the leaves in our backyard. So he's not even a former rake. He's a current one. Best husband.
Boom, boom. No, and I mean, I wasn't looking for a former rake. There was a point where Bad Boys got old for me. You know what I mean? That I was like, oh, I'm cool with not being treated like crap anymore. I'm cool with not wondering what's going on. and hoping they like me and at some point figure it out and tell me. I was over it. Like I just got tired of that bullshit. And I wanted to finally have somebody who liked me and I liked them back, and we actually fucking tried. And that's what we did. And we've created a stellar relationship because of it. But like,
Love it.
it took a long time for me to get there. There's a lot of former Bridgerton visions in my head of what I thought love was and what I thought relationships were. And for that matter, when somebody did sometimes like me, I was so busy chasing after what was unattainable, I didn't notice or care. And I'm glad that I got over my stuff enough to notice and care about Danny.
But these people don't get a chance to. Women especially don't get a chance to get to know themselves, to go through some relationships and learn these lessons. It's high stakes when you pick your husband in Bridgerton.
No, absolutely. The best thing is that you're not really expected to even like each other. That's the interesting thing about this time, is that you can just live in different houses, right? Like that, because all of these people have titles and money, they can choose to do that. But
just
that's
make
not
those
what
babies. Make those babies
just
and then do
in the
your
heirs.
thing.
Just get in the heirs. What else? Let's move on to some more worst love lessons. I think
We've covered a lot
talked
of them.
about a lot of them. Here's one thing I will say really quickly is that I realize that this is Bridgerton. I realize it was also the time, but I do think I see this in modern time, which is because is it Will Mondrich? Is that right?
Yes.
Because he was not wanting to give up the club, right? He was really pushing back. He was really, I'm not going to do it. We see his wife basically have to manipulate him. She basically has to plant little ideas in his head. She has to
let him get there on his own,
come around to it, right? So that he finally is, yes, okay, I'm leaving the club, whatever. And I just hate that, because I think that's a message that women have been told. Don't speak directly. Don't say what would be right for you or the relationship or whatever. Instead, you have to plant little ideas. And TV shows growing up, I see that all the time. Like the mom saying to the daughter, don't worry, I'll plant the idea in your dad's head so that he can be the one who thought that he came up with it, and then he'll let you do it. Fuck that noise. Fuck it hard, because those are real things that we're still doing, still talking about, and I am not here for it. That's manipulative. Whether the reasoning makes sense to some women or men, it's manipulation. And any time that we're not directly speaking our mind or having a conversation, that's a problem. And I didn't like that, because in the first season we got to see her speak her mind, and she says to him, because I loved it, she goes, you did not marry me because I was quiet or whatever. And then having to see her as they get money and titles and everything else, then have to become this person who has to manipulate her husband to do what's actually best for their fucking family. Not here for it.
No, because it makes her manipulative, and also makes him not a good part of the family. He couldn't arrive at that conclusion without a more direct conversation. Like, why did it take? Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of love lessons that at the time, I think you're right, made sense, were accurate. Modern day, don't carry them over. I'm looking at a quote right now from Lady Featherington in the same category, where she says, ladies do not have dreams, they have husbands.
Right.
And for that time, yeah, getting a husband was like probably the best thing they could do. Nowadays, ladies have dreams. And you can absolutely want a partner and want a relationship and love, but that shouldn't be the only thing that you are aiming for, or that you feel like you can aim for.
What about some of our favorite moments and quotes? Yeah.
So first of all, I love when Colin is talking about his feelings for Penelope to his older brother, Anthony, who's a totally new character in this season. And he says, my feelings for Penelope...
He's just twin brother, Anthony.
Emotionally mature, kind, empathetic.
Who's come in like long lost twin brother who Violet had to give up for some reason, and then has come back, been the one who actually married Kate, and is now a kind person.
Yeah.
That would be more believable to me than all of a sudden Anthony's a great person.
He sucked for 2 seasons, but now suddenly he was the best. But Colin says, my feelings for Penelope weren't a lightning bolt from the sky. And I like that, because I think there is this sense of you should just be struck by feelings. And if you don't have them right away, then it's not there and it's not going to happen. As opposed to sometimes feelings develop over time. Sometimes you have a relationship with someone and you don't realize there's something more there. and that can happen later on. Just letting love develop in many different ways is I liked that.
And questionably, if it is coming down like a lightning bolt, is that love? That to me is lust. That to me is attraction. That's attachment. But that's not necessarily love, right? And we confuse that obsessive love phase, that lust phase with love a lot. And I can't believe how many people, definitely women, when I say this, who are like, but if I don't feel anything on the first date, right? I shouldn't have to like go on a date with them again. Sorry for making that woman in my fake voice sound dorky, but that's happening. And I'm like, you can maybe know that this person isn't a good match for you by the conversation or the values that might have come up, but you're not going to know whether that person's really a good match for you, whether that person's a great partner for you. You're not going to know that at a first date. And really, a lot of times I find who we are naturally attracted to, that's imago, that's other shit that they've proven in psychology.
I knew Lucas for years before I actually looked at him like he could be a potential partner. And then when I did, it turns out there was a lot of feelings there. But how many interactions did I have with this man where it was like, we didn't think twice about each other?
That. Let's talk about that. So as a reminder to everybody, Isabelle and I basically just met 3 months ago when we fucking started this podcast. And we've never met in real life. We'll take a video when we do at some point.
Yeah.
So there's still stories that she's hearing about me or Danny and I, and I'm still hearing about you and Lucas. But I would love to take a brief Bridgerton break and talk about your friends to lovers story, because that's not how Danny and I were, right? We were strangers who met and started dating.
I won't get into the details because it's complicated, but like the short version is he went to college with my eldest sister.
Right.
And they ended up in the same social circle with my other older sister.
Okay.
And her then boyfriend, now husband. So like my sisters and this guy friend group were just interconnected. I was obviously younger, but went and hung out with them at college and spent time with this group and got to know all of them and was at some of the same events as all of them. So we passed each other many times. Early on, I was in high school and he was in college, so that we didn't get together for obvious reasons. We just were in each other's orbit for a long time. And then one night for my sister's birthday, she knew I was single and I was interested in dating. And she said, who's going to be there and who's really great is Lucas. And I was like, oh. Lucas. And you know what she said? She was like, and he has a really cool car and he plays poker. And I was like, done.
I will tell you this, that I don't know if that would have been my response, but I think that you're like, he has a really cool car and plays poker. Done. That's all I need to know.
And then it was just like we finally gave each other the time of day and we're like, oh, it turns out we really like each other. Has this been here the whole time and we've just ignored each other for years? Yeah, we had.
But virtually what you're talking about is turning your attention towards someone, getting to know them deeper, putting intention and attention, right? Like,
yes.
Is it much different than that? And then as you connect deeper, as you know someone better, that's where feelings form, connection forms, attachments form. That's what it is. And I think that we think it's lightning. No, it's literally saying to somebody, I want to get to know you better and see if this goes anywhere and see if you're the person I want to go grocery shopping with, or you're the person that I want to do dishes or laundry with, because that's what life actually is. Not $200 meals every night or all of these wonderful and fun dates. Like, how much is that happening now?
No. And it's great to hang out at the fancy ball, but most of your life is not going to be
the fancy ball.
Yeah.
And I don't even think, to me, love has turned out to be so much more than I thought it would. So much deeper, so much better, so much more kindness, because I was so confused with love and attraction. I was so confused in love and crushes. It's so much better than I ever even gave it credit for. And sometimes I get so mad at when I see a story or I hear something that happened. And I'm like, not only are you disrespecting yourself or the other person, but you're disrespecting love. You're calling it love and it's not. Because love is showing up. Love is making that choice day after day, even through times where you're like,
don't know if I want to show up.
I don't know if I want to show up, right? Because creating and committing to that relationship It's a thing.
It is. It's work, and it is like commitment and a choice that you make, and the outcome is so worth it. But you're right. Like it's more complicated and more wonderful than people see.
And I think that the more we know about that, the power struggle phase when it hits, because it will, is less jarring because we know it's coming. Yeah. What I see is people are shocked the fuck out that they don't feel the exact same way they felt the first month or two. Yeah, 2 years later or 3 years later. They're like, wait, what? This isn't the same, or it's not going to continue feeling like extreme excitement all the time. And I now think that's annoying and exhausting. I wouldn't want to feel like that level of anxiety on some level for me. It's exciting, but it's also anxious. I like the secure. Keep me in the secure. The person I am in the secure, she's a better person. That's what love is.
She's a great person. That's who I know. Oh, yeah.
Dancing in my pink. This is a weird ass episode.
I know. It's going to be
my
something.
Gosh.
I don't know.
It is something. I will say, for a quote,
yeah.
When I think that they wrote Colin really well, these last four. Like I said, he was showing up, particularly before he found out. And then even after, you are the bravest, cleverest woman I know. You make me feel seen in ways I've never felt seen before. I loved that, because usually in modern day romances, we've got, but I love you, and nothing else. No, this is, you've helped me feel seen. That's a beautiful fucking thing. He acknowledges some of the things that he loves about her. I'd like to see a lot more of this instead of these fake copy of, what did I see just the other day? Oh, and Anyone But You. I can't even say that
I had forgotten
name.
that movie existed already. It's been a day.
We literally recorded about it 2 days ago, everybody. 2 days ago, we recorded about it. But at the end, he does a whole fake When Harry Met Sally. I love you because, and let me tell you, it works for When Harry Met Sally. It was the first time it was done. Billy Crystal is amazing in that movie. He is, to me, weirdly, the quintessential rom-com person. But, it's meaningful in that because they've been friends for 10 years. When Harry Met Sally is the perfect friends to lovers story. It's why it's held up in time so much, because they were friends for 10 whole years before they turned their attention toward each other and started noticing each other, just like you and Lucas did. But in Anyone But You, after he's known her like for a week and all they did was shit on each other, and then he's like, I love you because you sing Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield to me. I mean, just like the weirdest shit.
So strange, so disingenuous. Yeah. But Colin, you're right. He's got the history. So when he says this stuff, it really means something, and it lands, and it's nice to see Penn finally be seen, which is what she's been wanting since Bridgerton started, especially to be seen by him. And actually, that was one of the quotes that I loved, which was him saying, I will spend a lifetime begging forgiveness for not seeing you sooner, for not being aware.
That
and like,
shit? Look at, I just got a little bit chills there. Like,
I was like, this is really romantic, and I don't think he should have to beg forgiveness for not seeing her soon, but I was like, that's just a lovely sentiment. I missed on seeing you for who you are and being with you in that way.
I know. They really wrote him well, for me at least. And because he also says, I want to never take a single day with you for granted. Like, that's the shit that, like, hits me right there where I'm like, yes, Colin. Because it's not about just, I want to devour you with kisses for the rest of your life. It's no, I don't want to take you for granted, which happens in everyday relationships.
Yeah. We didn't see enough of that from her. We didn't hear enough of her.
I actually think he showed up and she did not, because she was so busy and distracted with Lady Whistledown bullshit. Yeah. We didn't get to really see her show up, and I'm bummed by that, because to me, there almost wasn't a Penelope love story. There was a Penelope respect story. There was a Penelope like almost coming out as her own self story. But I actually would have loved to see her give and receive more from Colin. I would have loved to see, for at least an episode or two, them being by each other's side, them going through this world together, because that's what's going to happen. And I don't like when it's just all this push and pull and push and pull and push for whatever's sake. I want to feel the love, and
we didn't get enough of it. Yeah,
didn't get enough of
I
it.
agree.
Any other favorite quotes and moments?
Lady Danbury. You'll love
Always.
this. She says it right when she says, so talking about Penelope, All she had to do to get him to marry her was to be herself. What a lovely message, right? When she finally was authentically Penelope and put herself out there, turns out the man of her dreams loved her and wanted to be with her. That's such a good message to take away from this.
Agreed. Because it's not when we get all the off it. It's make sure you change and look a certain way and fit into this certain thing for someone to love you.
And change them. And find somebody who needs changing, but you'll be the one to change them. It's going to work great. It's all going to work out.
Do we have any favorite characters?
Listen, I put down Benedict.
I know you did.
It's like a sexual palate cleanser. Now, between all the Lady Whistledown drama, there's Benedict getting it on. There he is naked. He's kissing her. He's kissing him. It was just this little intermission all the time.
I really wish. I think that sometimes they're throwing Benedict in to bring in the sex without having them to do it between the main couple. But fuck, I wanted to see more Colin and Penelope. I wanted to see when she's coming from Madame Delacroix, the modiste, and he's coming from the club or whatever, and they see each other and they start making out in the street. I wanted more of that. More of that.
But after the first season, they really cut down on the sex scenes. The first season was, I don't know. I told you, my husband walked by when I was watching, and he was like, "Are you watching porn?" And I was like, "I think so." I think at this point it's kind of counts. But these seasons have been much lighter.
I don't like it. And here's the deal. I actually am not there for the sex. I appreciate a good little, like when we saw the Duke go down on Daphne, which we don't see that much.
Oh, yeah.
I think every woman across the world was swooning a little bit, right? But yeah, I was bothered that they didn't give that to Anthony and Kate either because they fucking fought the whole time.
And they spent half the show fighting with each other. Yeah.
I think for me, we're not necessarily doing a rewrite because I think that this came together quite lovely they solved the Lady Whistledown problem. I didn't think that was going to get solved for, by the way, many more seasons.
Me too.
So I was actually a little bit happy to see that kind of come to a close because I really thought there was so much emphasis on it this season.
Yeah.
I don't know. What were you talking about? I forgot.
Sex. Oh, but it's the meaningless
sex.
That's what it is. It's these meaningless sex scenes with people that we don't know and don't care about, as opposed to the main couple seeing them connect. And sex isn't just about being a horn dog about watching people get it on, right? But it's like the connection piece of all of this dramatic tension building, and will they or won't they? Finally will, but they're pulled apart. It's about the reconnection and that intimacy, and we don't get a ton of it.
And we see at the end this brief little moment of her on top of him and they like are down together and having sex and whatever. I wanted to see her power, not in Lady Whistledown, but her power in that relationship, right? Yeah. I would have loved to see a couple of episodes where she became really good at sex and she liked it and she and Colin were getting it on, as I would like to think that they would be as she has not had sex before, that they would be as a younger couple or whatever. But I would have loved that empowerment for her to own her body and own her skin and own her sexuality rather than all of the shenanigans that we saw.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to talk for a second about Lady Danbury and her brother and that conversation. I thought that was very interesting.
That was a great conversation because for me, as a couple therapist, what I loved about it was that people make assumptions about what other people are thinking, what is fueling people's behavior, their intentions, and which is understandable. We can't always know what someone is thinking. Yes?
I have a question. Yes, thank you. Dr. Morley, I have a question. How much in your practice do you think that for your couples is assumptions? Is it 40%? Is it 60%? Is it 80%? Like, how much do you think people are assuming their partner means or meant or...
It's probably 80 to 90%.
That's a lot.
Say. And a big part of that is because we don't send clear signals about what's going on for us, right? If you feel embarrassed because your partner said something in front of friends, you're going to act mean, right? You're going to retaliate. You're going to ideally want is to pull them aside and be like, that really embarrassed me. I feel like really embarrassed that you said that and that they know that thing about me now. Clear signal. people get a lot of mixed signals. They get an anger response, a defensiveness response, and so they take that and think they know what's going on. They make that assumption, and it's wrong. I don't blame them for it because they don't know the real story. But Lady Danbury, right? She thinks she knows why her brother did what he did, or she doesn't even care why.
Listen, I love me some Lady Danbury, but I'm like, you're mad at your brother, like
He
your
was a
60-year-old
kid.
brother when he was 10?
He didn't know what was going on.
I mean, I'm like, Lady Danbury, come on. I'm a big fan, but that's a little ridiculous because he was 10. And I don't know if we should be punishing the acts of children years and years later, at least without a conversation, at least without. And I'm sure it wasn't silly to her, right? But having have this conversation and her basically give him the stink eye for 6 episodes. What are you doing here? I hate you. I'm like, this is about something he did when he was 10, Lady Danbury?
And he doesn't even know. He doesn't know what he did. You haven't ever told him why you're upset with him?
I'm certainly glad that they worked it out, but I was a little bit like, Lady Danbury.
Come on now. I
on.
agree.
But
Especially
she
because
was holding that for 50 years.
talk about mixed signals. It seemed like she didn't like him because he was a rake and she didn't trust him around the women of the tongue. But it turns out that's not actually her issue with him at all. And it's too bad because it really flavored how I saw him the whole season up until that conversation. I was like, is he just super manipulative? Is he a narcissist, right? And he's just doing a great job of presenting wonderfully, but he's a terrible person. Turns out, no. He's like a perfectly fine person who made a mistake at 10 years old.
And I do want to say one more thing. You and I started discussing Lady Violet's flowers were in bloom. We learned that during Queen Charlotte when we saw that Lord Anderson showed up this time and there was a little interest there and things like that. But I hope that if they choose to give Violet a love story, it's not going to be some half-ass shit like this. I hope she gets a carriage. I hope she gets maybe a slow burning love story this time, right?
Please.
I don't know if it's Lord Anderson or not, but I do have to say that thinking about it, for as much as that character annoys me for the way that it's written, I hope that for women of my age, like she gets a real fucking love story with sex, with all of the things. Like it shouldn't just be like, oh, and now this nice young man is tipping his hat and that's all that's going to happen. Like I want her to have a love story. I want Lady Danbury to have a love story. We still don't know or understand how much love has she had. Like,
if
I
she
don't
wants
know.
that. She might not want that. That's the thing.
I mean, it hasn't looked,
No, there's not been a lot of potential for her. I want Violet to be in a legit love triangle where she loves, likes, whatever, 2 men and cannot decide and figure it out because it would just blow up all of her ideas about how easy it is to find the one and blah, blah, blah. I want her to be torn.
And I want her to pick the slow love. I want this time for her to realize that and this feels so
Should we be
Lord
writing
Wickham and Mr. Darcy. This feels so Pride and Prejudice for me, right? Where Mr. Wickham comes in and he is like the dashing captain, la-di-da, and everybody just loves him. And Darcy's sitting over there just judging him not being great either. But just the same, like it definitely has that kind of vibes. But I want her to choose the person who keeps showing up. I want her to choose the person who's choosing her and who she is. Like, I would love that for her. And I don't want it to be quick so that she actually then can be more open and loving for her children and their own love stories.
Oh, yes. I want it to be Lord Anderson is the final pick. He's there, he's present, but some hot guy comes in.
He's a handsome man, by the way.
And she oh yeah. She'd be just fine with Lord Anderson. Somebody else comes in and she gets all flustered by this person. And then she has to decide, and I want her kids to counsel her into making a good decision.
Oh, my God. So let's go. Would they last? Would Colin and Penelope last?
They have to, because you can't get divorced. Yes. But would their love and attachment last? I think so. I think we saw enough evidence of their skills at communication and getting through conflict. They're supporting each other with their writing. I think they will.
I agree. I really hope so. You're right. Do they get a choice? But looking at it from a 2024 aspect, I think that they actually have a better chance than the other two relationships so far.
Yeah.
Personally, because there is a friendship level there. There is a respect level there. I mean,
Families
the
know
Duke
each
and
other.
everybody else was fought the whole time. And then it was like, ooh, but let's do that. So now what are our ratings? Because now that the whole series is done,
I know.
do you want to go first?
Sure. I hesitate to
I
even
was
say this.
shocked
I know.
with what you wrote.
Especially after it seems like I had a lot of negative things to say.
I was actually shocked 'cause I was like, wait, what?
I know.
So your tacos were?
I gave it 5 overall tacos. I know. I think that it just, if I take away the critical viewing of it, which is hard to do, it's obviously not the point of this podcast. I just enjoyed it. It's just enjoyable.
It is. It really is.
I can't help myself. So will it stay 5 over time? Probably not. We just finished it. We've been so immersed in it. So it feels like a 5 in 6
This has
months.
been like a month of our lives, right?
Yeah,
like being
been-
pretty immersed in Bridgerton and Queen Charlotte and, everything.
Yeah. But Love Lessons,
And what did you say, Love Lessons?
I gave it 4. I think that 4 might be generous, but again, it's without a little time behind me, it's hard to see it clearly.
I agree. And I think that overall there were a lot of good love lessons. There were a lot of good, more modern takes than there have been
Yeah.
than the first 2 seasons. They were a little bit more period and like sticking to the period.
What did
I
you give
gave it 4. 4 and 4. I thought there was actually really good love lessons. I don't think the first 2 Bridgertons were great love lessons. I probably would have given them like 2s.
Yeah.
So love lessons. Then I gave it overall just because I've been thinking about what you're like. I'm only giving my very specials to the
I know,
or
and then I go and
fives.
just give
I
it
know.
away.
So then I was like, this isn't a 5 for me. I really enjoyed it. I'll be excited when I have to watch it again for the next time we do Bridgerton because I'll probably go back and watch it again. I was really excited about the Friends to Lovers storyline. So overall, like 4s and 4s. So any positive takeaways?
Here's what I wrote. This is often my positive takeaway. Relationships can survive things. They can survive betrayals. They can survive secrets coming out, whatever it might be, depending on how a couple handles it. And I think there's this idea of love as being this perfect, pure, uninterrupted connection and attachment and peace. And that's just not the case for a long-term relationship. So if you are willing to be vulnerable and to work on repairing or giving second chances, right, benefit of the doubt, admitting your fault and problems, you
Going
can get
into
through
therapy.
Therapy, everyone. A plug for therapy. You can make it through really hard times. And I liked that, seeing Penelope and Colin get through hard times.
Because it won't be their first or their last.
There could be some tough times.
There could be, exactly. I did not do any positive takeaways, but my positive takeaway will be 100% just that I am happy that even though it is the tiniest step forward and society isn't necessarily following, I loved that we had Nicola Coughlan and her perfect breasts, but also
Finally.
not necessarily the normal body type that we see, and just seeing her be not only loved, but wanted, that really meant something to me. That part made this Bridgerton to me special in a way that the other 2 did not. And then Queen Charlotte to me is its own level of something, right?
I know. It feels different.
It feels very different to me.
Agreed.
Woo! Well, and scene. That is it for Bridgerton, guys. They said that they will not be back out with another one for 2 years. I am stating this out loud right now. My goal when the next Bridgerton comes out is that you and I are leading a retreat in England in a castle where we dress up, we have balls, we invite a bunch of cool women and men over to join us, and we watch it together.
Oh my God.
In a castle. That is my goal. I love retreats. I run a lot of retreats. And my goal is for us to be in England
hosting it
when this comes out. And we watch it on a big screen with 25 other people who love it as much as we do.
Okay, I love that idea.
Yes,
I'm going
so
to
I'm
save
putting
my
it
gloves.
out to the universe. Put it out to the universe.
Manifesting. Yeah, love that idea. I'm sad we won't be dressing up for 2 years. That's a long time to wait with our amazing outfits.
I know. But you know what? Imagine who we will be in 2 years in our
2
Bridgerton
years.
wear, right? If we have like actual balls, I'm getting a dress made or something,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We're gonna
Delacroix, come on.
exactly, we're gonna get that done.
All right, everyone, that's it for today. If you liked this, subscribe or follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on your favorite podcast platform.
And if you loved it, and we sure hope you did, please leave us a review. It helps us get the word out about this new podcast. And remember that you can get resources, show notes, and join the Rom-Com Rescue community at romcomrescue.com. Plus, guys, we are over on Instagram and TikTok almost daily, sharing clips, sharing stories and funny things. Come follow us because we're talking about all of these things in real time.
Join us next week for Anyone But You with Sydney Sweeney and
Glenn Powell.
And
a lot of bullshit.
it's something.
It's something.
You'll see.
It's something.
Until next week, create your own happily ever after.